I have chosen to make an analysis about Ernest Hemingway's story Hills Like White Elephants. Hills Like White Elephants take place on a train station in Spain, and it portrays a conversation between a couple while they're waiting on a train going to Madrid. The couple is introduced as the American and the girl whose name is Jake. While waiting on a train, their conversation become more tense while talking about whether the girl Jig should have an operation or not. It is implied that the operation they're discussing is actually an abortion. This is seen in the following quote. "It's really an awfully simple operation, Jig," the man said. "It's not really an operation at all." The girl looked at the ground the table legs rested on. "I know you wouldn't mind it, Jig. It's really not anything. It's just to let the air in." And by saying it's just to let the air in, he's implying that they're discussing an abortion, because historically there have been many ways to terminate a pregnancy, and one of them was to introduce air into the uterus. So this quote gives us says that that's discussing an abortion. If we take a look at the characters, we we have two main characters in the text. We have the girl whose name is Jake, and we have the American whose name we aren't told. The girl Jake is very distant throughout the text. She also shows some resentment towards the American and comes off as a very confused person who's not able to make a decision on her own, and she's not strong enough to make it. This is seen in the following quote. "I don't feel any way," the girl said. "I just know things. I don't want you to do anything you don't want to do. No, that isn't good for me," she said. "I know. Could we have another beer?" "All right, but you gotta realize." "I realize," the girl said. "Can we maybe stop talking?" In this quote, we see that she's trying to avoid the subject, and by changing the subject to "Could we have another beer?" But um, and also she gets a little angry when he keeps on pressuring her to deal with the problem and discuss it. When you can see that, but you got to realize, and then you can see the girl gets a little angry, or uh, by saying, "Can we maybe stop talking?" She doesn't want to talk about it. She just want to sit in silence and just trying to ignore it. So this also said that she's very confused. She can't make a decision on her own. If we take a look at the American, he's a very well educated man. This is implied by he talks both Spanish and English. So he acts like the interpreter in a relationship. And he's also the one who orders their drinks and carries their baggage. So it's clearly that he's the superior and the strongest in a relationship. He's also very determined and manipulative, and he's very clear about that he does not want to have a baby. And this is seen in the following quote. "I know we will. You don't have to be afraid. I know lots of people that have done it." "So have I," said the girl, and afterwards they were all so happy. "Well," the man said, "if you don't want to do if you don't have you, if you don't want to, you don't have to. I wouldn't have you do it if you didn't want to. But I know it's perfectly simple. And you really want to? I think it's the best thing to do, but I don't want you to do it if you don't really want to." So, this quote explains and or gives us an idea that that he really does not want this baby. Um, and he's also a little manipulated towards Jake when he says that it's a very simple procedure, and also an earlier quote he said it's just to let a little air in. So in that way he's very manipulative towards her. He's also very determined. He knows what he wants, but you can also see that he doesn't want to be the only one who makes the decision. He wants her to be a part of it. Uh, he doesn't want to be the one who makes the final call. If we take a look at the setting, as said before, they're sitting at a train station, and the train station is described as being between two lines of rails. This can be interpreted as a symbol that she's caught between two possible outcomes or two decisions she has to make and isn't sure which one she should choose. So she's caught in the middle. It's especially and the two different possibilities or outcomes is portrayed in the landscape. I interpret it as one side is way more dead and boring and dry, where the other side is where there's a river and more life, and this is seen in the following quotes. She put the felt pads and the beer glass on the table and looked at the man and the girl. The girl was looking off at the line of hills. They were white in the sun and the country was brown and dry. So I think this side represents if she wants to get an abortion, everything is just dead and dry. And then the next one, the girl stood up and walked to the end of the station. Across on the other side were fields of grain and trees along the banks of the Ebro. Far away beyond the river were mountains. The shadow of a cloud moved across a field of grain, and she saw the river, and she saw the river through the trees. So on the other side, there's much more life, and I interpret this as if she chooses the life inside her. Yeah. So if she walks to that way, she have chosen to not get an abortion. If we take a look at the title, Hills Like White Elephants, hills could be a symbol of the bump in a relationship, which is the pregnancy, something they have to overcome. And like white elephants could mean, there's a known saying, which is talk about the elephant in the giant elephant in the room, which is something when you talk about a person with a person and there's something really huge you have to discuss or something that's going on, but it's just you're trying to avoid it, but you can't ignore it because it's getting so huge. And this could be, in this case, their pregnancy. But also, if you try to look up white elephant on the web, you will find out that the definition of white elephant is a possession unwanted by the owner but difficult to dispose of and result in many burdens. So this is also very, in this case, it's also the pregnancy where it's unwanted by its owner and it's not that easy to get rid of. Yeah, so that was the title. If we look at the narration, the story is told in a objective third-person narrator, and Hemingway uses the fly-on-the-wall technique. Us readers are observers. Most of the story is only lines, and we don't get any info about their thoughts. We have to read between the lines and analyze what they are meaning by when they say this or this. This is also very characteristic Hemingway style. He uses the iceberg theory, which is he doesn't just put everything out there. You have to read between the lines, and but you can still get that there isn't any hollow places. You just have to find the meaning with it all, with the whole thing. The ending. in the end, I will just read the ending up. He picked up 2 heavy bags and carried them around to the station to the other tracks. As I said before, the other side was much more life, and was a symbol of, some more life. So when he picks up the 2 heavy bags and carries them over to the other side of the station, I interpret this as uh, them, or he chooses not to have the abortion, but to give their unborn child a chance to live, or to choose not to have the abortion. And when he comes back to Jake, he says, "Do you feel better?" And she said, "I feel fine. There's nothing wrong with me. I feel fine because there's no longer an elephant in the room because they came to a decision and chooses to not have an abortion. So there isn't a problem more. There's nothing wrong anymore. It is they're embracing their child, or accepting her pregnancy." Um, this story is very similar to another text we also read in the class, called Indian Camp. Indian Camp is also written by Ernest Hemingway, and they're very similar in that way that they're both written in a third-person narrator. And so it's also very he also uses the iceberg theory in Indian Camp, where you have to you're the observer, and we have to ourselves find the meaning with the text.